welcome to another live edition of Wealth Building Wednesday. Wealth Building Wednesday is brought to you by TRHT Selma. TRHT stands for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. And transformation is indeed what we hope to do through Wealth Building Wednesday. This is our opportunity. This is the TRHT Selma opportunity to share with you all the great information, give you access to people that you might not have access to otherwise. And so it is indeed a pleasure to be here with you every single Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, and available on Facebook and YouTube Live, as well as the audio being broadcast on WBFZ 105.3 FM. I am your host, Lydia Chapman, and I am delighted to have the wonderful Memendra Harris with us today. I'm so excited to have you. And I know, listen, life is lifing. So thank you for being here this morning, girl.
You already know I am glad to be here. It's a pleasure, an honor. Like, I'm really, really excited. I'm not a person that likes to be in the limelight at all. So this is a whole new adjustment from me. I'm behind the scenes worker bee, but when duty calls, you just have to show up.
Absolutely. And I truly appreciate you for showing up this morning. Y'all, let me say this, because I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues this morning. And I'm like, there's a lot more information out here than I actually thought when we, were first talking about this topic. Like, mental health and finances, y'all, they are truly connected. Right. And so that's what we're going to be talking about this morning. We are delighted to have Ms. Harris here with us to talk about mental health and our finances. And I want to just dive straight in because you are the owner. You're an entrepreneur yourself, right? So this hits you on two different fronts, right? Professionally, You're a licensed counselor, but you're also an entrepreneur. You own your own counseling business called Summerlane Counseling. Call her. She's in Selma. And so we are excited to have you here. But what is your definition, right? Like, not the collegiate, the textbook definition of mental health, but for you, how do you, if you're trying to explain to someone what mental health, because so often those two words, when they go together, they can be almost like a curse word, depending on who you're talking to. So how do you define mental health?
I'm gonna give an analogy. Yeah. So in school, when you were young or in the nutrition class, you see this picture and it has a plate, right? Yeah. It has your grains, your protein, your vegetables, your dairy. You have a whole little frame. To me, it's the same replica for mental health. So that consists of your emotional well-being, your physiological well-being, your social, your spiritual, all the things. So mental health is it's your heartbeat. The heartbeat goes to all the different organs in your body. So I look at mental health as the foundation. It's your everything, and everything comes up under it.
Well, I love analogies. It really, when you paint a picture for folks, because a lot of us are not just auditory, but we are visual learners. And so when you attach that visual for us, it helps us to see that, my mental health is a lot of who I am. Like you said, it's the heartbeat. Because who we are socially, who we are spiritually, what we're connected to, who we serve, right? That's an absolute, and it's a part of what we don't consider. A lot of us don't consider a part of our mental health. But now, I initially mentioned the fact that you're an entrepreneur yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so I want to kind of get you off of the questions that we planned, and ask about your, like, how do you as an entrepreneur, because I know what we're going to talk about is mental health and particularly personal finances, but entrepreneurship can be a whole other ball game when it comes to the stresses of life. So what are some of the things that you've noticed about yourself since you've entered entrepreneurship that you've had to do in order to maintain your mental health?
To be honest, I can't even mask my flaws. Being an entrepreneur, it brings out the good, bad, and ugly. It brings out all of your weaknesses. And it's kind of like, yes, girl, you've been on the other side teaching this stuff, but you got to walk your walk. You
Yeah.
got to do what you've been preaching. So it's a fact of transparency as I became
Mm.
an entrepreneur. Like, I'm teaching people how to deal with their fears. Girl, you got to deal with your own fears. And so, being on that side, it had to get me disciplined. I had to learn to be consistent. I had to change some bad habits, even, financial wise, how I spent things, um, looking at a budget to see how can I move forward? What's a time frame to move forward? Do I have the funds? Like, it's a
Mhm.
whole mindset change again that's attached to my mental health, how I was physically, you just emotionally, as well as my financial habits that I had to learn or unlearn.
Mm-hmm. And you know what you said now, unlearn. Listen, is probably some of the one of the biggest keys to life in this moment, honey. Because there's some things that we learn along the way, habits that we pick up, whether it's from our parents or other people that we're around, and we have to unlearn those things, right? And so the transparency, I love the fact that you said it's hard to hide those flaws, like it's just impossible, right? I tell folks all the time, like, listen, I'm practicing with my mouth, right? I'm trying to get her under control, but that face, yeah, it may take a little while longer to get the face under control. But these are things, we're all works in progress, right? And there's no such thing as a perfect person. And so I want to ask you about mental health from the perspective of why it actually does matter. Like, how can poor mental health impact our lives? Like, what happens if we don't take care of our mental being?
It's all about the quality of life. That's why it matters. I think everybody earns to have a life of abundance, and mental health plays a role in that, allowing individuals to feel good about themselves, to have purpose, to have leisure activities, to be able to travel and do the things they want. It's about the quality of life. Also, it's about productivity. It's about relationships that you have. That's also a big part of it, with relationships, because not only do you have to have relationships with people, you got to have relationships with money. And some people, relationships with money is not the same. And last
Right.
but not least, y'all hear this all the time. You just got to have, it's about having coping skills. So mental health matters
Mm-hmm.
because it helps when it comes to your coping skills when you come into moments of crisis or into financial distress.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So now, from your experience, how can our finances impact our mental health?
It make us make crazy decisions. It messes with our mood.
Yeah.
It messes with the decisions that we make with our money. We feel it some type of way. Or I know from a female point of view, sometimes we like to go shop. We want something to make us feel good. Like,
Retail therapy.
let's run it up.
Yeah.
But girl, you got to pay your light bill on the
Mm.
third. You know that's coming up. So you don't look good in the club Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but you ain't paid, took care of yourself. So it makes you, because your emotions are not together, you're not
Mm.
thinking straight, you're, haven't settled things that are going on in relationships, you go and mismanage in another way. You go on a shopping spree, or you splurge on eating, which you going out to eat, you ain't eating what you're supposed to eat. You eating the wrong things, which messes with your physical health, which causes
Mm-hmm.
you to be drained, not get the
Yeah.
sleep you need. So it goes back to that central core that I'm talking, your mental health. So yes, it impacts your earning potential. Don't have that mental health in check. You calling in, ain't going to work. Or when you go to work, you have doing your job, which to call
Mm.
supervisor to say something to you. Now you got an attitude with the supervisor, all because you ain't got your mental health in check and other things have led to it, or you hadn't addressed, again, put instill boundaries with friendships, with relationships, or other things that you got going on. So it impacts a lot.
So now I wanna go to something, and I know there's a question down the line that deals with it, but you just tapped on it, so I want us to kind of stay in that vein, um, especially right now, as the nation's as our country is experiencing hardship. A lot of families are struggling, right? One of the things that I have really heard a lot of employers in and around our community talk about, and even visitors to our community working with the Tourism Roundtable, hearing folks talk about poor customer service, right? And there was a conversation I had about 2 weeks ago, and I shared with the woman I was talking to. I said, well, I hear what the complaint is. And this was in relation to people not, quote unquote, wanting to work, right? I'm like, I hear what the complaint is. However, I think at some point employers also have to take some ownership, right? Because if the work environment is toxic, right? If folks, are highly skilled, highly talented, but they have to come in and people are having messy conversations, right? People are doing are microaggressions, right? Being basically bullying people at work, or threatening people. Those are things that's actually what causes people to leave jobs more than pay. People literally, there have been surveys through the CDC and other organizations that literally point to people, and earning power is not the thing that they are looking at. It's the actual work environment. So when you're talking about our mental health impacting our earning potential, and the example you gave, like you're not doing well mentally, so that's impacting your physical ability to actually get out of bed and come to work. You come to work, you're not really focused, you're not doing the job that you're assigned to do, right? So now supervisor says, hey, not doing the job you're assigned to do. Now you like, who you talking to? And so here comes the problems. So how can we get those things, as you said, in check? Like, what are some things, or how can we recognize those triggers in ourselves to know when it's time to say, you know what, I need to take a break, or I need to clean up? Because I know cleanliness for me, yes, it's the thing, right? I want my desk clear. I got to have, now the only place I'm a little junk is my car. When I get a husband, hopefully my car won't be junk. but, but the house and the office has to be clean. So what are some things that we can do, or how do we manage or identify those triggers so that we can be productive in our work life?
And I know y'all heard the saying, sweep around your own front porch.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to start with yourself by actually identifying maybe some triggers within yourself to see, is it home stuff that we're carrying to work, or is work stuff that we're carrying home? What is it about those dynamics that have us in the upward? It could be cleanliness, you unorganized, so you don't know where things are, so it causes you to be late. Another thing, one of the things for me, I have a problem with delegating, and I have a problem with saying no. So it makes I put too much on my plate, which, puts my mental health out of balance, and it trickles into other areas of my life when it comes to parenting, being married, or even, in my job, because I added so much on my plate. I'm coming to work, or have doing it again, don't know how to say no, or adding on other jobs, because I'm also trying to compensate, because I'm like, dog, I won my best yesterday. Dog, they asked me to do this assignment. Let me go and do it to help make up. But I'm also still adding on to the point where you fold. Somewhere it's going to fall short. And to me, all areas are important, whether parenting, your career, being a spouse or caregiver, whatever. So to me, all of those areas are important to different people for different reasons. So somewhere you're gonna fall short.
And so, with you saying that balance is important, right? And being able to identify those triggers or those relationships, those responsibilities that are potentially causing challenging situations. What if we are already, because when I want to come back into our finances, right? Our personal finances.
Okay.
So, there are some of us who are already struggling. Or even thriving beyond depression, or thriving beyond um, anxiety, right? Which is those are two actual clinical diagnoses. Um, how can we, if we're already struggling with those things, right? Like, how can those financial woes, even like financial problems, like trigger anxiety or depression, or how does that impact those type of challenges if we're already dealing with them?
It impacts your self-esteem. We already talked about impaired decision making. For some people, it leads to even harsher things like um, substance abuse as a coping mechanism to deal with the financial woes that we have. Um, it also increases your stress, and we all know how stress does on the body. It impacts your physical health as well. And if your health is down, you can't go get bread. Um, Also, feelings of hopelessness, um, helplessness as well, and which also causes us to kind of isolate. We, when we get in financial trouble, sometimes we don't want to tell nobody,
Mm-hmm.
or because we're no longer the it person, we're going to stay away and withdraw, which is not good because that causes embarrassment, causes shame. And far as we know, you're stuck in the house, then the depression sets in, all these thoughts sets in, and you just dig in a deeper hole that's harder to come out of.
So now, when you just talked about the impact that our finances can have, like on our self esteem, and not being that it person, right? I've shared with gentlemen before: stop leading with your below your waist and your wallet, right? And for some people, that's a hard thing not to do. So, as parents, what is it that we can do? Because, see, I want to go back to one of the comments that you really initially responded with about things that we have to unlearn. What, as parents, what can we do to help our children not be so moved by what the outside world may perceive as the value of money? Because I mean, from my perspective, money is a tool, right? It's a tool that should be used to make more money. Um, but what happens when we teach our children that their value is in the kind of shoes that they wear, and the purse that they carry to school, or the car that they drive? How can we as parents work to, I guess, balance that out so that as adults they don't feel compelled to go into debt trying to flaunt the Gucci and the Prada?
Being a new parent myself, having a 3-year old and trying this gentle parenting, statistics and study shows where you need to try to award or promote the character versus the behavior. So it'll be like, good job for listening, or good job for giving a compliment or holding the door for somebody. So looking at like character type action things versus like behavior in a way of you made good grades, so you get $5. It needs to be for per aid. It could be good job for being disciplined. You came home every day without me having to tell you to read your book. You had integrity.
Okay.
Good job for being honest in this moment. I know you were, didn't want to tell mommy the truth, but you're being honest. So like characteristic type things that build a person that we look for. Integrity, being honest, being noble, those type of things versus the behavior, type, if that makes sense.
It does, and I really I'm loving the fact that you're talking about rewarding positive character traits,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because those are the things that we look for in adults, right? And in raising a son, my 13-year-old, I'm trying to raise him to be a grown man who another woman will want to marry, right? And that he'll be a responsible person. And so, whether that's with, his character first, and then being responsible with his physical health and his mental health and his finances, right? And so being able to reward our children because of positive character traits can truly help us to, what I hear you saying is that it actually will end up helping them build stronger and more positive money habits.
Mm-hmm. Because it won't be about the thing. It'll be about what's here, and what you have here, all the things will
Mm-hmm.
follow.
Mm-hmm. So, what are some strategies that you would recommend when it comes to working through our finances and managing our mental health?
Um, One, working through finances. I know you heard of this. Create a budget. Every and y'all have heard this time and time again, but it works. Create a budget. Every penny, every dollar needs to be allocated towards something. And when I say something, you can literally say, "Hey, my shopping budget for the month is
Mm-hmm.
$100." You just have to allocate that money towards somewhere else. Not only say create a budget, set realistic goals for
Mm.
yourself, because you know yourself. So you don't try to like overdo it, and then you fail, and then you don't get up and try again because now you feel defeated in that
Right.
place with your mental health. Set small, realistic goals. Um, Involve a trusted partner. So if you know somebody that's good with money, it's okay. Ask them what they're doing. Try it. I know for me and my husband, we have like a business meeting.
Okay.
Once a week or every other week on Thursday, we getting up in that living room. We write down our goals, or it's like a follow up from the last meeting. Like I literally take minutes. Where we at today, what we
Okay.
doing, and we knock it out in an hour, and it hold us accountable. We see where we are. Speaking of me saying my husband, I'm also being transparent. I have open communication, so I ain't trying to hide now. I'm not going buying 10 pair of shoes and hiding them in the
Mm-hmm.
truck.
Mm-hmm.
And I ain't telling him, about it, because we together. So you got to have open communication with yourself. Also, if you need to um get professional help, you have financial advisors. It's so many out here that you have. Go educate yourself, go to Books a Million, go on Amazon, go on YouTube, watch you some videos, go on TikTok. It's a lot of gems being dropped out here with little simple things. Also emergency fund, that helps. That also,
Mm.
emergency fund, you got to get your tire fixed or your car goes out. You stressing because you haven't prepared for that. Y'all, emergencies happen. It happens to the best of us. Some is gonna mess up, so you have to um prepare for that. Also, avoid debt if you can.
Okay.
Um, Also, I forgot the person name, but we have kind of gone by this rule. If we can't buy it 5 times, we can't afford it. So
Mm.
if I can't buy it 5 times, I need to rethink that or put that on down the line to get it. Because growing up, my parents, they did have great financial structure and good boundaries. And I always remember my mom said, if you have to borrow it more than once, you need to go get your own. And it
Mm-hmm.
just kind of always stuck with me. But also when it comes to me making decision between a want and a need,
Mm.
sometimes I have to ask myself that question.
Yes.
Um, because living for the moment, I feel like this generation, we live for the moment. We don't think about the
Mm-hmm.
future.
Mm-hmm.
Things are changing. We don't know what's going to happen. Not that I want you to live scared. Please go live your life and live it
Right.
fully and abundantly. But we have to be smart. and take calculated risks that would benefit us as a whole, and take care of your people that you leave behind, your kids. So when it comes to getting insurance,
Yeah.
a 50 using, you know, 50 a 401k, whatever it is that you agree, give you some stocks or whatever, go set it up. Give you a trust, knowing having a will. I know in our culture, um, even learning the difference between a whole life policy and a term life policy,
Yes.
knowing to me, and we talking about this in my sessions, in our one-on-one session, depending on what's going on, we bringing up this. So it's just not about mental. As I'm learning, I'm educating my clients in a
Hmm.
one-on-one session because it's all a part of it. I can no longer, like I said, the mental well-being is the heart. So I have to look at it holistically.
Hmm.
So when they come to me just like a doctor, they looking at everything to see what a blockage is or what's called. I have to look at everything. And sometimes, 9 times out of 10, especially when it comes to my married couples,
Hmm.
it's communication and finances. Communication and finances. Number one thing.
Now listen, because see, now you jumped into the marriage. I wanted to definitely, before we conclude, because I know that you are definitely going to be back with us,
Yes.
because this is a topic that is very real, right? And it really, a lot of us don't consider the connection between mental health and our finances, but these things do matter. So now let's talk about the impact on relationships, right? Whether that's with our children, or particularly though when we talk about being with a spouse or a significant other. um, how do we avoid toxic or detrimental situations when it comes to being in partnership with someone, um, and causing that stress and the mental health look? And we, counseling is a great thing. I think we need it all along the way, right? But now we know we got to go because every day we have a problem, right? So we don't want to get to that point. So how can we avoid? What are some things that we need to do maybe beforehand, that ounce of prevention, right, being worth a pound of cure? What are some things that we can do beforehand, or some strategies that we can utilize, especially with partnerships, whether it's business or romantic partnerships? How can we avoid the toxicity, honey? Because money can be hard to talk about.
It definitely can be hard to talk about, but you have to. It's also about laying things on the table or maybe coming up with certain boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Like for instance, me and my husband, of course, we make our own money, we spend our own, but we have a safe number. If it's something that we see or something that we want that's over that safe number, like for
Mm-hmm.
instance, if it's over $250,
Mm-hmm.
we're due for each other to call. Hey, I see this is over our safe number. Let's talk about it. Because I could just be in my moment. I could be like, oh, I love it. I
Like it's on sale.
like,
Yeah.
and not that he's gonna deter me away from, but he's gonna be my voice of reason at the moment. We just need to talk about it because he might know something that's coming down the line that I forgot or haven't been aware of. And
Mm-hmm.
he may be like, oh, not right now, babe. Remember, we got this going. I'm like, oh yeah. So being transparent and having those conversations to set boundaries. Um, hey, when we get to below this point, let's have a conversation. Either also respect each other differences too. Because some people operate their accounts different. Hey, all I'm saying is you talk about it, what works for you, do what works for you. Um, Another thing, like I said, review, have a monthly meeting or weekly meeting, however you do it, and set clear financial goals. So you gotta talk about it because usually one person is good with the finances and one person isn't. So somebody got to be able to reel the other person
Mm-hmm.
um in. So again, you got to be transparent, and I think that's where the trust starts. A lot of people have in relationships have probably been hurt um
Mm-hmm.
by people taking their money or going through a bad divorce. You want to keep everything separate and not talk about it, but you do at least need to talk about it because as you're trying to move forward and grow together, You just need to know what you're working with, period. You just need to know what you're working with. You need to know how the car drives before you get the car. Because we
And
don't
to
want
be
no limits, y'all.
honest,
We don't want no limits. We if we get a limit, we have to put out more money.
right, correct.
We don't want no limits. So you got to kind of get this information. And I know it can be uncomfortable, but I think as you build rapport with a person, they can see you being genuine, that you're not trying to do it to shame them or come up on them. I feel like people will be open to have that conversation and willing to make the changes that need to be made to be successful. Because again, I don't think nobody wake up and want to be broke. I don't think nobody wake up and be like,
Right.
I want to lose my house today. I want to lose my car. I don't think no
Right.
one does that. But
Right.
sometimes we have to learn to control our impulses, and we don't have the coping skills to do that.
And so now this is, honey, you are dropping gems all throughout this conversation. So I'm excited to have you back. I have taken some notes. So if you are watching live and you just now tapping in and tuning in, honey, go back through because there are notes in the comments. Setting boundaries. I heard you say that setting boundaries is a critical aspect of making sure that we avoid toxic relationships when it comes to money, and making sure that with our partner, with that person that we consider to be our spouse, whether it's, you know, on paper or not, right? If y'all living together, like grandma used to say, shacking, and you sharing money, you know, make sure you're scheduling meetings with that person, and setting clear financial goals. My question to you right now, as we get ready to close, girl, this 30 minutes flies by because we're having so much fun. I want to ask you about having these conversations prior to the commitment of marriage, because what I heard you saying near the end of your last response was talk to the people. You talk to the person. It can't just be like sex drive and, you know, like leading with sex and it's great. Okay. And then now let's go get married. It's like, no, boo. I need to know a little something about you. Like, how much debt do you have? What is your credit score? Have you ever owned a home? What if you don't own it now? What happened? Do you own your own business? Is it profitable? You know, all of these things. But when we lead with the physicality of it all, right, we may be physically attracted to that person, but are we attracted to the mental? So starting these money conversations, how early do we start them and how often do we have these conversations?
I say start them as early as possible. Not only do I have these conversations with my husband, girl, I have these conversations with my homegirls, my friends.
Yes.
We talk about how to make each other better. Like if they come across certain things, we sharing it in a group. It's just about being informed, again, trying to make that generational wealth where we cover a multitude. Our parents, have done good, but it's too much stuff out here now that we have resources and access to keep operating how we've been operating.
Yeah.
Like, so I say start it as early as possible, asking the questions. No question is dumb. Like if you don't know, ask. Celebrate, your small wins that you have. If you say, man, I was able to save an extra $100 today, girl, sir, I'm rooting for you. I'm proud of you. And we also gotta stop. We gotta avoid comparison. And I know like social media, it plays with our mental because we see things, and we try to again overcompensate or try to keep up with the Joneses, and that's not how you do it. We in the long game, not the short game. So we looking at the long game. I'm gonna have to email you or send you the name, but it's a YouTube video. I'm gonna send to Lydia for everyone to go and watch. But he talks about dreaming and wanting more, to list 50 things that you want with no limitations, no financial limitations, no anything. And you'll be amazed how much you can grow. And when I first did it, I couldn't even come up with 50 things because I was just stuck in this little box of what I can do. And that did something to me.
Yeah.
I want to be able to think beyond. You can be imagine what you can do. So push yourself, grow. Like I'm gonna send a video link because it's very impactful and powerful when it comes to financial goals and create generational wealth for your kids and starting them at an early age, learning how to
Yes.
save, and how to do well with money.
Okay.
Y'all, ain't nobody coming to save us.
Period.
They ain't nobody coming to save us. So
Right.
we got to save ourselves and put back into our own community.
Absolutely. And I can't think of a better note for us to end on today. Minda, it has been a pleasure having you here. We are definitely, I'm going to have you back again on this season of Wealth Building Wednesday. Y'all, thank you for tuning in every single Wednesday, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're live on Facebook and YouTube. We have folks talking about speaking. Good morning, Tiffany. Hey, DK Harris. Y'all, everybody, tell a friend to tell a friend that if you want access to the information, this is your opportunity. Okay. The contact information is always available. We want to make sure that everybody has access to the expertise that they need. We are connecting the dots, some of the very same things that she talked about, like life insurance and financial planning and setting up trust. Those are topics on Wealth Building Wednesday, and we'll have a guest for each of those, or several guests, as a matter of fact, for each of those. So again, we want to welcome you to Wealth Building Wednesday. Thank you so much, Mindy, for being here with us. Mrs. Harris, we will have you back, honey, again and again, right here on Wealth Building Wednesday. Y'all, again, tell a friend to tell a friend, and you better share this video because you're watching, you know, you learned something. You better share this video. Okay.
Yes.
And we'll see you all next Wednesday.
Bye, y'all.